Hey, it's Lauren. Thank you so much for listening to the Afterlight. Enjoy the episode. This episode has been brought to you by Raw Consulting and the Raw Spirit Team Mentorship. Hey, it's Lauren here. I'm an expert in time management, content creation, and mindset work. My day job is working with overwhelmed or unmotivated business owners or service providers who want to get organized and motivated and review their current business practices so that they can kickstart their journey to further success. You know, the average person with an average life lives 27,350 days. And even though we know that we just shape shift into something different after our time is done here, I believe that making use of your time and living the life of your dreams, which is a life of flow and bliss, is so incredibly important. And I want to help you do that. I can help you through business and life challenges. I can help you to, change your mindset, to create time for self-care, to look at your dreams and to create a roadmap to help you get there. Also, through the Raw Spirit Team, I offer group mentoring as well. So if one-on-one is not your thing, you're interested in more of a group scenario, then that would definitely be an option for you. All the details can be found in the show notes. You can also head to my website at rawconsulting.com, or you can send me a DM on Instagram or on Facebook at any time to see whether or not working together is maybe a good fit for both of us. All right, time for the episode. All right, it's Lauren, and welcome to the show. My guest today is Cassandra Knight. She is a professional clairvoyant, an astrologer, and tarot reader. During a career spanning over 28 years, she has performed readings for people from all over Australia and the world. Cassandra uses her natural psychic abilities, plus the wisdom of the tarot and the cartouche, to tap into your current circumstances and their potential outcomes. Her list of achievements include astrology columns and feature articles that have appeared in various newspapers and magazines, ranging from the Herald, Sun to Elle. And she has presented a regular health horoscope on the TV show Win Today. Cassandra is joining me today to talk about all things astrology, and she's actually going to be giving us a 3-month snapshot. So get your pen and paper, right, Cassandra? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Lauren. It's great to be back. And we do have a super duper time coming up over the next 3 months.
Oh, no. Super duper in a good way, or super duper in a way like I need my pen and paper so I can take down some important information?
Well, it's just going to be, I guess, big changes for us on a emotional level, but also what we'll see externally. It's going to be eventful, shall we say.
Okay.
And reason being, we're sort of coming into an eclipse season. What that means is we've got the eclipses coming up, and they sort of are twice a year mainly. And we had one in December. What ends up happening, Lauren, is that it takes a while for the effects to be known. Even though the eclipse might only, be for a few hours in that day, the implications or the effects are more far-reaching. And part of it is that the nodes of the moon are really about helping humans evolve. So it is about sort of our evolution as human beings. So it sort of brings in new themes, which helps us to kind of grow and do things differently or evolve, shall we say. So what's coming up for us, and we probably all have been feeling these shifts around the new moon in Taurus a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. We've probably all been feeling like, oh, something's coming up, what's going on? It's that sort of rumblings of change. What we have on the sort of 26th of May, so that's for us in the Southern Hemisphere. It's the day after for the European and Americas, so that would be the 27th. And it's a total lunar eclipse, which is also called a blood moon. And what that means is the sun and the earth are quite close together, so it's going to look like a really big moon. and it's in the sign of Sagittarius. So we're going to be challenged, I guess, with our ideas and our ideals. So we can have our ideas, but are they in line with our ideals? We're going to, I guess, have new ways of or opportunities to evolve in the way we communicate, to communicate with more awareness and clarity. These are the ideals, of course. The people out there that are mutual signs, and that's the Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces, and Virgo. We're going to feel it more. Now, that's if your sun sign's in that sign or you have a rising sign. We're probably going to feel it more than, say, the other signs, but it still has a sort of overall effect. So what that's going to mean is that we're probably going to have things come up from our subconscious minds that maybe don't serve us, or it could be thoughts and ideas that we're carrying that we're not aware of that come out in the open, and help us to really review, is this a belief that's serving me? Is it something that's holding me back? We're going to be more conscious of how we're communicating. And on a general level, that might come across as well as, how we use social media, how, is it something that's serving us or setting us back? And this goes on until the solar eclipse, which is in June the 10th. And that's in Gemini. So those two things are the polar opposites. We've got Sagittarius and Gemini. We'll feel the effects really for about 6 weeks. So it's 2 weeks before the say lunar eclipse, which is next week, and then 2 weeks after June the 10th. So that whole time, people are more likely to be sort of emotional, intense, sort of things coming up, boiling up for people that they will probably have to sort of address or look at in some way. And what I will do, Lauren, is also cover the individual signs for people, how that might sort of come through for you. I'll do that a bit later. So the other thing that's going on as well this month and until July the 28th is Jupiter's going into a new sign, into Pisces. So it's in that sign for a little while until it goes back into Aquarius, and then it goes forwards again in 2022 where it continues being in Pisces. So we get a bit of a glimpse of what next year might be like. And Jupiter does rule things like laws, morals, ethics. Also, it can be where we experience abundance in our lives. Now, being in Pisces, it's really comfortable in that sign. It is its natural ruler. Well, one of them. So we may experience, sort of feel quite inspired, particularly with our sort of spiritual journeys. We may feel sort of a new sense of hope, and there are opportunities to, say, be more charitable or tap into our own sort of abundance, particularly if it's in line with our spiritual purpose as well. And it's a really positive and strong, powerful placement. Like I said before, it does give us that new sense of faith and approach, and sort of approaching things in a more spiritual way. The other thing I would say there is that it does sort of help us to feel more inspired and bring us in line with a sort of positive spiritual expression of, particularly for what that might be for us as individuals. The downside of it can be that it can sort of promote addictive behaviors, or particularly being in Pisces, or deception. So it can be a time where things may not necessarily seem what they are. We still need to sort of be focused and grounded. The other thing coming up for us is there's a few planets going into retrograde. We've got Mercury going into retrograde at the end of the month, and that's going to be retrograde for about 3 weeks or so. That's a time where we don't really want to be moving forward too much and starting new things. If you are starting new things, just be mindful that leaving a bit of room for, if things do sort of go wrong, or that you're going to have a bit of room to move. Now, when I'm talking about the dates, I'm talking about the Australian dates. So for us, for our friends in the Northern Hemisphere, it's usually a day after for you guys. So sort of have that in mind. So Mercury is in retrograde from the 28th of May to June the 22nd. So that's a time where we just need to be mindful of going back and finishing things that we've started. You know, it is a great time to say do your book work or do your writing. So if you have a business and you need to do a lot of, say, writing or create content, that could be a good time to do it. It's just, it can be a challenging time if you're trying to launch something and start something new and gain the momentum of what's happening astrologically. It can be a time that it's a little bit not sort of so forward. The other thing, at the end, I think, of next month, there is a bit of tension. We have Saturn squaring Uranus again, and that creates sort of tension, particularly things we might have felt back in January. It comes up again. The part of us that wants to break free and have freedom and new things, we're being sort of pulled back by either responsibilities or rules, regulations, things that sort of stop us from progressing into the new. So we might feel that. It can also be the clash of cultures sometimes as well. So hopefully it doesn't, you know, sometimes that can be where there's a lot of, say, tension for countries. So we talked about, yes, Jupiter going into Pisces, and we've got Saturn. The few planets that are retrograde coming up, we've got Mercury and Saturn. Pluto already went retrograde a few weeks ago. So this is a time where we're going to have to sort of go back and go over things, and we need to be patient. So if you are trying to start something new within the next 3 months, like I said before, you do need to have that patience and being sort of thorough as well. Do your fact checking in a sense, or sometimes it can be like even leaving room for error or for delays. What I will do now, I will have a look at each individual sign. I'll talk about how things may come up for each sign over the next sort of two to 3 months. Starting with Aries. The areas focus for Aries are going to be about things like communication, writing, education, networking, publishing, if that's something that's in your life. There may be a real desire also to travel if it's possible. That might be sort of coming up for Aries. If not, it can be that you're looking to expand your mind, your understanding, learning new things, exploring new ideas. It can be a good time to get stuck into a course or do a new course, as long as, I guess, you're so patient. It might be something that does require that sort of commitment. And being careful in your communication as well, because people are going to be a little bit more emotional, particularly around, say, the full moon and also the lunar and solar eclipses. The other thing can be is that on a sort of spiritual level, that you may gain a lot of insights about ways that you can sort of tap into your positivity, your sense of abundance, connection. It can be a very sort of positive time for things like your meditation or tapping into spirit. That's going to be quite sort of an active area for Aries. Going to Taurus. For Taurus, issues around sort of your money and self-worth, you're going to find that there's going to be opportunities to invest in yourself, whether it's for your self-development or growth. It can also be opportunities to make more money in a sense, and it can be through ideas that come to you or opportunities. Thinking about also how you feel about yourself and what story you've told yourself, and it is sort of tying in with your self-worth there. So that's going to be an area that becomes more clear, maybe in your mind. And the other things I see, there also is opportunities around friendships and widening your social circles as well. It could also be a generous friend coming up in your life, or making a connection with a person that brings some very good opportunities your way. Now for Geminis, it is a big time in the next 2 to 3 months, particularly having the solar eclipse in your sign in June. the middle of June the 10th. The areas that are being activated for you are about how you see yourself, and also about relationships. So if there's issues in relationships, particularly ones that have maybe not working, or it's time to let go, you might find that there's certain relationships in a way concluding or going through a transformation. So that can sometimes be relationship endings, ones that are not really serving you, but it can also be a time where you can have real breakthroughs in your relationships and have healthier connections. You may also, particularly at sort of the middle of next month, feeling kind of wanting to go through some changes within yourself. So it can also be about your appearance as well. That you may have a time when you're letting go of a certain look and you're playing around with different way of looking or being or expressing yourself. And if you're sort of Gemini's being naturally expressive, you may find that you've got a lot to talk about, a lot to express within the next sort of month or so. Just to wrap up with Geminis, it is a lot about relationships, relationship to yourself as well. Also a focus on sort of family and your work, but that's an area where things may be sort of helpful, or you gain opportunities through helpful situation around family, but also your work. Going on to Cancerians. Cancerians, the focus is going to be about your health. If you've been doing things not promoting your health and well-being, these in the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks, it may become more apparent to you if there's things you're doing which are not helping you. So it can be like bad habits, things that you've sort of been avoiding, and you may have the consequences of that without sounding sort of negative. It's more that you become more aware that there's a certain few things you may need to improve or change to go towards sort of optimum health. Now, because we've got the eclipses in the Gemini and Sagittarius, it's probably going to come through, you might be reading a book or hear a podcast or finding out information about your health and well-being that helps you to feel more clear or enlightened about what you can do, and real breakthroughs with working with your subconscious as well. Like, what is it that you're suppressing or digging deep that you're able to really have breakthroughs with, particularly letting go of old habits. For Leos, you're looking at seems a more sort of romantic time, and it can be where you feel more sort of playful, catch up with your friends. There's a lot to discuss and mull over, and you may feel ignited and excited about catching up with people, whether it's on that friendship level or in a more sort of intimate romantic level. For those of you hoping to conceive or have a child, it can also be a very powerful time, particularly with these eclipses coming up. So that's sort of the theme for Leos, is connection, playfulness, opportunities to open up your heart and experience love and romance. For Virgos, there is the sort of challenges between wanting to have a bit more freedom in your life in some way, particularly to do with family obligations and work obligations. You may feel this bit of tension in wanting to find a bit more freedom. So that's the key there is, yes, you may not be able to get out of your obligations, but there will be opportunities to break out a bit and have some freedom and experience some new beginnings. And the other thing I'll add there is, you may, for Virgos too, you might find that you're moving house, or that there is changes in your home life, in your actual home. It can also come out through your work as well. There may be changes in your career. You may be thinking of changing a career course. It doesn't necessarily happen in the next 2 to 3 months, because there are sort of few delays, or things may not be happening really quickly, but there is a seed may be planted in that time for you to think about where you're heading, what you'd like to do, either for your career or what you'd like to express in the world over the next sort of year. Now, for Librans, for you, it can be about learning, communicating, having experiences where you're expanding your mind. There also can be areas around signing contracts, making certain committing. It might not be a time where you're finding like you might commit to something, but it might take a bit of time before you feel relaxed about it. If you are finding yourself that you do have to go forward and signing contracts or making certain even legal commitments, things will probably go okay, but it can be a time where you're taking care to make sure you've read the fine print, you understand what you're getting into, that you have taken the time to go through the information. With Librans, you may find that you are doing quite a bit of traveling in your neighborhood or covering a lot of ground, not necessarily long distance travel, but just in your sort of immediate environment. Now, for Scorpios, the advice for you over the next 3 months is you do need to take a step back and not rush things, and particularly in areas to do with money, finances, dealing also with other people's money. You may find that there's issues connected to finance, whether you're sort of borrowing or lending or making decisions with partner or partnerships. It can be a time where these issues come up for you. It doesn't mean it's going to be bad necessarily, but it's kind of saying just step back and try not to rush. If you do that, you might find that you're able to achieve the things you want to do. Particularly if you're looking at making big commitments financially, that can go quite well for you, particularly if you're taking your time and taking things sort of step by step. And it'll probably take over the next 3 months for things to be finalized or being able to sort of tie up loose ends. Now for Sagittarians, there is a lot of change coming up, can be a bit of an emotional time. You really have opportunity to change the way you see yourself in the world, and it can be through your career or how you're presenting yourself. It can be an emotional time, but in some ways it can be very healing and therapeutic. You have real breakthroughs with, so there can be things that you've held back and not understood. Why is this keeps happening to me? Why do I keep getting in these situations? And you may find that you have a real breakthrough over the next 3 months, particularly with issues around relationships. Can be a really good time for Sagittarians that actually work with people one-to-one, because you find that you have better ways of communicating, can create or form better relationships with either, your personal relationships or your professional relationships as well. So big time for change for Sagittarians. And so moving on to Capricorn. Now for Capricorns, can be a great time to change your mindset, particularly for Capricorns, if you find that you don't feel like sometimes that you have the time to really do your personal development work, that you're always feeling like things have to have a purpose and an outcome, and it can be hard to give yourself that time to do your inner work. So for Capricorns, it's a great time to break through things like doing shadow work or looking at what's in your subconscious that may be affecting your physical health, your emotional health, breaking negative mindsets. These are all the areas that you'll have real opportunity for change and healing. And it may be that if you do that kind of work for other people, that you get a lot of success and really able to help others as well. Now, going on to Aquarians, it's probably been a pretty intense time in some ways for Aquarians from, I guess, over the past 6 months or so. So you're finding in the next while that you're able to let go a bit and have a bit of playfulness in your life, may be more inclined to connect with groups, really explore, say, your hobbies, your interests, or people that also share your similar interests. So you're going to be looking for connection, and there's going to be opportunities to really have a sense of what your purpose is, what floats your boat, as they say. Yeah, so opportunities to connect with like-minded people, like-minded groups. Also, the feeling of a letting go, things that have felt a bit heavy for you, and opportunities for some, new love, for others, new playmates, so to speak. Now, for the last sign, Pisces, you may have opportunities to change your career path. Also, it can be a role in your job, a change of your status or title. It can also be a change for your family life as well. You may find that, for some, they may become a parent or a change in their status, going into a partnership more formally. For some Pisceans, there's a lot coming up around your family and things to do with houses and homes. For some, it may also be having to be there for your parents or your children, and opportunities to do charitable work or to be there for others and have that, getting, I guess, that benefit of, being there for others. So it's a big time for Pisceans, particularly in that area of your career path, but also around your family and your home life. So I feel like we've covered all the signs. The key for the next 3 months is just really leaving a bit of room for things to happen and not trying to organize every minute and day or week. It is just kind of leaving a bit of space for things to shift and change. And I think we'll be okay. Then we can sort of make adjustments when we need to and really make the most of this time.
Well, thank you so much. How can people get a hold of you, Cassandra, if they'd like to find out more, if they'd like to get their own reading? Because I know that you do that as well.
Sure. So you can find me through my website, which is cassandra.net.au, or you can also find me on Facebook, Cassandra Clairvoyant Astrologer. Cassandra Knight, sorry.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi. Thanks so much for listening to the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave us a review where you listen to your podcast and share it with your friends. Thank you. New episodes